Well, the latest drought monitor is out, and it shows continued expansion of the drought across most of the central and northern plains, and that helps contribute to some pretty low dew points lately as well for areas where we normally get some pretty soupy Gulf of Mexico air. And when it goes over that parched land, you kind of run out of that. But because of some recent rainfalls in the upper Midwest, the northern plains, at least the last couple of days, we have seen a big increase in dew points. Some of the most humid air of the season finally reaching places like Minnesota that should be seeing that in these dog days of summer. And that's why we're actually seeing some normal plains severe weather, something that's been rare this summer so far, but it has been picking up a little bit in the month of July. So typical spot you'd expect in late July. Minnesota and Wisconsin under the potential threat of severe storms later today. We got an enhanced risk. Places like Duluth, where severe weather is pretty rare, especially this year though. But most of eastern Minnesota and much of northern and central Wisconsin could see some strong to severe storms. And in particular, it's not so much a tornado day, can never rule that out, but we're looking at pretty good bet, high probability of storms that could produce some high wind gusts. We've got a hatched area that's 30% plus probability of severe storms producing some high wind gusts. Twin Cities, Duluth, and into western Wisconsin, almost to Green Bay. And then similar for the hail. So basically storms are going to be explosive, big hail, and big wind gusts potentially later today. We've got a low pressure area developing right across eastern South Dakota, western Minnesota. Already some clouds and even some light showers trying to go in that area. But that is going to be the area that we'll watch. And there is a cold front too. Take off the pressure contours and put on the streamlines. You can kind of see the front. It stretches from southeastern Montana through North Dakota, South Dakota, and into northern Minnesota. And you can kind of see this broken line of clouds across central and northern Minnesota. That is the area that we're going to be watching today. Already pretty juicy. Cape values are very high already across southern Minnesota and Iowa because we're seeing these actual muggy dew points that has been hard to come by. We've got kind of a bullseye of mid to upper 70s dew points across Iowa into southern Minnesota. Again, as I mentioned, for Minnesota, these are the highest dew points we've seen so far this season. So it is not anything insignificant. That's a pretty big deal today, and that's why they're looking at some insane heat indices. Much of the central U.S., of course, under the gun for heat today. A lot of heat advisories and excessive heat warnings across a good chunk of the central part of the country. Look at the supercell index quickly. Again, these are all midday values Thursday, so they're not as high as they will be yet or in the right locations yet, but already the area that we're going to be watching, central, eastern Minnesota into western Wisconsin, we're starting to get the supercell index up to 5 or 6, which is already getting up there. Of course, mid-level temperatures so far keeping a cap on the atmosphere, which is just what you want for severe weather. Those storms will be popping up later. We've got also a little bit of mid-level short waves, some minor short waves moving through the atmosphere, pretty much a zonal flow, though, west to east flow across the area. So as we look at the storms, it's going to be that front that's going to be the focus for storms the next few days. So we've got the enhanced risk of severe weather across Minnesota and Wisconsin today. And then tomorrow, as that cool front slides south, it's going to be Iowa into Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan, and then that same area kind of fading out, but that marginal risk will follow the front as it sort of stalls out across those areas. So let's take a look at what we're looking at today as far as the NAM model goes for storm development. Not much going on until we head into the late afternoon, as we would expect. You head into Minnesota, we'll zoom in that area because this is going to be the focus point. Some strong storms late afternoon, evening, bow echoes possible, and then into southeastern Minnesota through the evening in southern Wisconsin, and some pretty strong wind gusts is what we're expecting. And we've already talked about that possibility here, really across eastern Minnesota. All these orange, red blotches are potential for some very high wind gusts. Again, that's the NAM model. If we look at our more rapid updating HRR model, you can see a little less wind, but still generally the same area. And again, because we're going to have some major CAPE values here heading into the afternoon, we're talking 4, 5, 6,000 joules is how we measure the energy potential for the atmosphere, and it is strongly correlated to both temperature and dew points. But really the deciding factor this time of year is that you increase that dew point, you really increase the amount of energy And that makes sense. We know storm clouds are made out of water, but pretty impressive values. This is probably overdone by the NAM model, but either way, you can see there's a lot of energy for those storms. And then again, as we head into the next couple of days, that focus is going to be further south along the front. And that's why we have that risk across Iowa into Illinois and then Michigan, and then heading into Saturday, less energy. So that's why we're looking at more of a marginal risk. But that front is going to be the focus for storms the next few days. Some actual activity in what has been a slow start to the severe weather season in the northern plains. But again, as I mentioned, it's been picking up a little bit here in the month of June. So again, today, the area we're watching, upper Midwest, Minnesota and Wisconsin, for some strong storms, large hail, and high wind gusts. Follow us on social media and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you're alerted to the next chance of extreme weather in the U.S.